So why is it seems that certain people start to really move away from us, or it seems that people start to leave our lives, or the universe almost draws people away from us or causes us to move away from people as we go on this spiritual journey? Where I want to really reveal a little bit about this that I've experienced, and also what's coming through me as I speak about this, because I do think it's for a particular reason, and I do think it's actually an important component along this journey. If you're going down the spiritual path, if you're starting to live in more of understanding what you are and bringing that through the expression into the physical world, I want to go over why that is. So that's coming up next. So before we jump into it, my name is Dave, and this is HeartSpace, where I am creating videos every single day to help you along your heart path. And speaking of heart path, that is my monthly membership group, which you can check out down below, where you get live calls with me. You can ask me your questions, get coaching. You also get access to most of my training programs and things that are going to ultimately help you along your heart path. And also, you're going to connect with a lot of people who are heart-centered in that community. We have a community, all this different stuff in there. You can check it out down below. Now let's talk about why is it seems the universe will kind of remove people from your life or draw you away from certain people. And I'm really just going to riff on this because it's something I've experienced as well. And it's not just with people. This happens in basically all physical expression. This happens in basically all things in your life, because ultimately you have to understand, when you go more on the spiritual journey and you're actually doing the work, like you're actually doing the work to raise your consciousness, to be more of what you actually are and create identities around more of what you actually are, what ends up happening is you raise, we'll just call it what's your frequency and vibration. You raise your consciousness level, and we can call it, I've heard people call it like your default kind of vibration, or your, actually I can't think of the exact name, but we'll just call it your default vibration, your default wavelength. Now, if you think like a radio, right? When you tune a radio to a certain station, if you tune to 95.5, for example, which I have no idea what that would be, I haven't used a radio in a long time, but you understand how that works, right? If you tune to a certain frequency, so let's say 95.5, what are you going to receive? Well, you're going to receive whatever's on the wavelength of 95.5. Now, let's say we change it to 101.1. Are you going to receive what's on 95.5? You're not. Why? Because you're on a different frequency. And so many of the people that you may have had in your life in the past, or maybe you currently have in your life, that you kind of see are starting to move apart, even people maybe you were very close with and had developed connections with at a certain level, may seem that you're kind of moving further and further and further and further apart, almost like the universe is causing you to split apart in one way or another. And the reason for that is because as you go on this journey, as you do the inner work, as you listen to your intuition, as you start to create and make changes, let's say you're on the frequency of 90 and you're tuning now to the frequency of 100. But the people who you connected to on the frequency of 90 are not also moving up to the frequency of 100. And so therefore that split starts to happen. And sometimes we try and hold on and we kind of go back to the frequency of 90 going like, no, I need to have these people in my life, or it's wrong of me not to because they've been this or that for me, or whatever else. But the fact of the matter is then you keep being tuned back to 100 because that's where you're going, because your awareness is expanding, you're doing the work, you're growing in consciousness. And it makes sense that those at the frequency of 90 and those at the frequency of 100, just as an example, I'm making up these numbers, but you can understand they're on different wavelengths. They do not like come together and crisscross that much. They basically are on different wavelengths. And this is not just the case with people, like I said. It's the case with circumstances. It can be the case with, for example, your job. It can be the case with, for example, your financial situation. It can be the case with, for example, the kind of emotional set point you have throughout the day, or kind of the emotions you start to experience more and more, because the emotions on the tuning of 100 are going to be at a different consistency than those at 90 or 80 or whatever other frequency. And the thing is, for you to be able to then create connections with people at that higher frequency, you have to be able to make space by letting go of any of the 90 frequency residue that you have on you. And that's why you'll find people start fading away, because if you have some of that residue, so let's say you're at 100 but you keep tuning back to 90 and 100, so when you're in your heart you've kind of gotten to that frequency of 100. Again, these are arbitrary numbers, but just to make a point, but you're at that frequency of 100, but because your head and these patterns had certain people in your past and you're maybe connected, you trauma bonded with these people or connected at a certain lower conscious with that person, you keep tuning yourself back to 90. But what it's ultimately doing is creating an energetic anchor in your life that is bringing your frequency back down to 90, right? But you know that you want to keep being here, you want to keep growing, you want to keep doing the work, and it keeps inevitably raising your consciousness and frequency. And again, it's the choice of these people to do so or not. And sometimes we don't know why people come into our lives. In fact, a lot of times that is the case. But that is one of the main reasons the universe, it seems, will be removing people from our lives, because not only are those people not on the same frequency as you anymore, so not only does it not benefit them to have you always in their frequency range, right? Because it's just not a mesh, it doesn't go together. It would create a very incoherent sound. It would create a lot of chaotic static if that was the case, right? Not only that, but it is trying to create space by removing the residue from that frequency to bring in people that are actually aligned with where you are currently. Again, I would check out my monthly membership group, Heart Path, where you will find more people who are aligned to you because they are moving in the direction of their heart at different levels. And when you meet people who are like that, that's when, the magic starts happening with your peer group. That's when you start to connect to people at very deep and real levels, not trauma bonding, not, low conscious stuff, but connecting at a much deeper level. So that is a lot of the time why the universe, quote unquote, removes people from our life, but ultimately it's just how the process works. It's not the universe going like, okay, I'm gonna take this person away with you. It's just because you are raising your frequency or vibration into those higher levels of consciousness, which the other person, unless they are kind of making that climb with you, do not resonate with at this current time, and that's their own journey. One thing I wanna leave you with, it is not better or worse to be at the frequency like we went over of 90 or 100 or any other higher or lower frequency. It is simply where someone is on their journey, and it serves us and them not to hang around and keep the residue of a certain frequency on us just because at some point in the past we had a connection with that person at a different frequency level. We have to be able to let go, or I would at least invite you, we don't have to do anything, but I would invite you to let go of that in your own space for new things to come in at the frequency or vibration you are currently at. But I wanted to throw that in. Remember, it's not right or wrong. A first grader is no better or worse than a sixth grader. They're just at different parts in the process. And sometimes someone goes from first grade to sixth grade quickly. Sometimes someone stays in first grade for a very long time. That doesn't mean you have to keep going back down to first grade in order to really continually rekindle the past, so to speak. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning into this video. I hope it's giving you some clarity and some things to think about. Remember, you are loved. Remember what you are, the divine, infinite, co-creative being, and I will see you in the next video.